this is, well, let's do everything.
Sure.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. Big one. Welcome back to HM and Big E Review Things. Today we are talking about a film I'm very excited about. I've seen it twice.
Yes.
And it is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh. What is his name? Kihei Kwan?
Really should look this up first.
Stephanie Sue. I know we do very
James
little.
Hong.
James Hong, which
Jamie
is
Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Yes, it's A24, directed by the Daniels. What did you think about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
Well, it was one of those things where you watched it first at 10 o'clock at night, and I didn't want to go because it's too late. So you
and then I oversold it.
No, you didn't oversell it. I was very intrigued, so I bought a ticket for the next day, and we watched it together with my wife. And
we have initial reaction that we're going to put in here.
So what's your reaction, honey?
I thought it was funny. I liked it. That was clever.
I need to digest this. I thought, I really had no idea going in. I didn't watch a trailer for this.
Yes. But I think it's better. I think it's better if you go into the movie not knowing.
Yeah. I saw a few photos. So I kind of knew, okay, this is kind of like going to be, I think, going to be a comedic kind of movie. It's going to have some fighting because Michelle Yeoh is a stunt woman and she's multiverse. I knew that. And I would say my first reaction coming out of theater was, what did I just watch? Now that's not necessarily a bad thing or necessarily a good thing, but it was really like, I think you're going to be jarred coming out of this movie, and I think that was the point.
Yeah,
it really is an experience, more than just a passive movie that you're just sitting back and kind of enjoying. Yeah, you got to engage with the movie. You got to think about it, and you got to, I think, kind of go back and really process the themes and why certain things were happening there. Yeah.
So, so we're pre-spoiler territory, and we're going to try to give its way a little information because I think there's so much that really is best experienced. I will say that I think this movie had so many chances to go wrong. There are so many things that could have gone wrong with this movie. Yeah. They really do try to fit in a lot, and it's incredible that they landed, I would say, almost all of it really, really strongly. You know, it's a comedy movie, it's an action movie, there's a sci-fi movie, there's the family drama part of it. Like, it's all done, it's so complicated. Like, I can't imagine the screenplay originally for it and trying to sell it to a studio. Obviously, A24 picked it up, and I think it was like a $40 million movie, so it's actually on the higher end of what A24 usually spends on movies. But it's clear that the Daniels had Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan. They had a very clear idea of what they wanted to tell, the story that they wanted to tell, and how it wanted to look. And it's produced by the Russo brothers.
They were involved.
Joe and Anthony Russo. And so I think it tries to do a lot. And it's incredible that they landed all of it. I really, really like this movie. So, I mean, I honestly don't think there's much we can say without getting into a bit of spoilers. So this will be our official spoiler warning. My advice, just like Homing's, is also, this is very much so a theater experience. Like, go watch it in theaters. I think being with other people makes a difference. I think seeing it on the big screen makes a difference. Try
not to read more about it. Right. If all possible, avoid the trailer. Yes. Because then you really go in blind, which is what I did.
Yes. So if you haven't seen it and you're watching this up to this point, everyone says this always, like, turn it off and go watch it first and come back. I know you probably won't, but you really should. You really should. We're not going to spoil any of the super big things, but we're going to have to spoil it a little bit as we talk into it. But this is a very good movie that should be experienced in theaters, I think. Okay. With that all said, spoiler warning. Okay? Red alert. Spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Well, I mean, do you want to go over the plot a little bit? Because they kind of have to know what's it about.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, the main premise of the plot is that Michelle Yeoh is an immigrant family, unfortunately, and like her husband is retreating or pulling away, or they don't have a great connection. Her daughter is, again, not in a very good relationship. Her business is failing and being under audit by the IRS. Her father is visiting, and so she's feeling a lot of different pressures.
It's a movie about a woman who's overwhelmed with life.
Yes, with the stresses and different things in life.
I think the two directors had said it's sort of their take on modern life with the internet. Where there's a lot of things happening in your life, and life keeps going, and you're pulled into a lot of directions, a lot of narratives. It was their kind of take on how people process that, even though they don't really mention the internet, but that is sort of.
And I think, in the very opening stages of the movie, how she processes it is that she just kind of barrels through and keeps her head down and kind of ignores all of it, and just everything is just keep going. And then the inciting incident is, of course, when they arrive at the IRS building, her husband seemingly transforms into a different person and explains that he's from a different multiverse or different universe, and is kind of taken over his body for a little bit to give her some instructions on this big multiversal threat that's coming, or that's been happening, and she may be the only hope. The standard kind of hero's call,
that's right.
which she declines initially, and then we learn a bit more, and then things start getting pretty crazy.
It gets really crazy, and I find that if you go into this movie trying to figure it all out, which is usually what I do, because I'm a big science fiction fan, especially with verse jumping, time travel, I like to know the mechanics so that it makes sense. This one is a little bit, it's got that indie feel to it, where they don't fully explain it, and it doesn't really necessarily make sense. But I think what I would say about this movie is if you can kind of get past that kind of hurdle, then the movie opens up a lot.
Yeah, I think it would be an error to kind of go into it looking for it to be like a hard sci-fi thing.
That's right.
Like explaining, like even to the level of the Daniel cited a big inspiration for this movie was The Matrix. The Matrix explained how everything worked much better, much more clearly, and set defined rules and how things operate. This is definitely a bit fuzzier, a lot fuzzier.
Way fuzzier.
On how it all works, but I think that's not the film they're going for. So don't go in looking for that. Don't go in as well looking for a full pure comedy, because there are moments where it's a lot quieter and a lot slower, and you're reading instead of listening to audio. But there are great comedic gags, and it's not just throwaway gags. Every gag that they mention eventually pays off later, and they call back and reference that. As a comedy fan, I think that was really well done. I thought the action was all really, really good. A few of those action sequences still stick out. There's one involving Jenny Slate, and they fight that.
That's right. There's a lot of absurdity in this movie, but
a lot, yes.
But what actually, to be honest, what I really enjoyed about the movie was, the first 20 minutes is sort of the setup of the family. It was a setting up that they are immigrants, that they're down on their luck, their relationships, and I think as two Chinese guys, we understood the Cantonese in there. So she speaks her native tongue of Cantonese.
Actually, she speaks Cantonese with her father,
right?
But she speaks Mandarin with her husband.
That's right. But I guess they're going for the audience generally doesn't know the difference, right? But if you are like us, I understood the Cantonese well, and James Hong uses Cantonese a lot. And there's a certain nuance, obviously, when you understand Cantonese, and the way he's saying certain things is pretty funny.
And some of the phrasing in Chinese doesn't translate necessarily that well.
That's right, to the subtitles, But it was, I really like that setup.
Yes, I thought the first 20 minutes was really, really efficient. Like they told everything that was really important really, really well. Good pacing. I thought that was really, really efficient.
And then that, I think, but that was the magic of it. It was like, then it shifts crazy.
Completely,
Crazy. The next hour is like, insanity, where she's jumping universes and all sorts of different universes are told, and it's kind of crazy. Then your mind starts going in a loop. You're trying to figure out what's going on, and then so it's divided into 3 acts. The last act is the shortest epilogue, but there's 2 acts. Right. I
think there's 3 essentially. I think there's the setup. And then there's the 2 acts, and then the third is the epilogue. But there are title cards for Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, but I really think it's Act 2, Act 3, and an epilogue. It's very clearly divided up that way, because before the first one, it's set up and calm, and then it's crazy, and then even crazier but resolution, and then kind of the epilogue.
And you can see from this review, it's even hard to kind of go over the plot. And maybe that's the point. It's like it doesn't follow a normal Hollywood three-part structure,
Mhm,
right? It's not a fairy tale where it ends with the hero doing certain things. It's the ending is actually quite subtle. The point of the movie is
Yes.
quite subtle.
Yeah, it is.
And so I think the whole way it's told, that you are actually overwhelmed in this movie, makes you feel a certain way about, maybe that was the point, because they're trying to tell a story about a woman being overwhelmed, and you're watching this movie feeling all this stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And coming out at the end thinking like, what did I just watch? Wow, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh in an interview, I think she said that like in one of the earlier scenes when she was filming, she's reading it and she doesn't know what's going on, and she was like, "Oh, that's perfect," because the character Evelyn also doesn't know what's going on in the
That's right.
beginning, and so
Exactly.
there is definitely a lot of confusion, especially in the beginning, like when at the turn of that second act, when the first action sequence starts happening, you're like, what? You're so captivated because the action is filmed really, really well. Big wide shots, everything, you can see everyone's positioning very, very well. The costuming makes it all very clear, where everyone's blocking, where everyone's standing is. But you're really with them. You're watching it and then you're confused, but you're captivated.
What I was thinking though is, why did they choose a Chinese family? Could it have been in any kind of family? Now maybe it's because Daniel Kwan grew up in an environment, like, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
But that added for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure added for you, growing up in an immigrant family and knowing people that go through those things. Even the relationship mainly between the daughter and the mother, that is a very typical immigrant type of story where there's tension, there's, they don't understand each other, they're not speaking the same language. The grandpa is even further removed from that situation. I mean, we reviewed
Turning Red.
This
is very
which
similar.
is similar.
Yeah.
And that is a theme that I resonate well with, and I think there would be another barrier with some people watching this movie. They might say, "Well, this is about an Asian family. I don't know if I can relate. It's about kung fu and stuff, right?"
Yeah.
And I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think just like what we said in Turning Red, that maybe for us as immigrants, we can identify some of this stuff a little bit better. Some of those cultural, how parents behave and how parents and children interact and that kind of stuff. I think there is differences culturally between that and Westerners, and just the philosophy of family is different. But I think there are still a lot of universal truths that are kind of what we talked about in Turning Red, in terms of parents expecting and wanting certain things from their children, and children kind of needing and wanting that acceptance and that guidance from their parents. I think that's fairly universal.
I just think that this movie, a lot of the defining features are about this particular Asian family, right? The language barriers,
Sure.
right? The translation, and some of the stereotypical stuff we see, the kind of overwhelmed but strong female, and then the kind of the dopey husband who's not exactly, understanding what's going on. She really doesn't respect him. But
I really like his arc, though.
Yeah.
I really like the culmination of his story, and
it's very atypical though.
Yes.
Of a hero.
Yes.
So I think one of the things I would definitely say about this movie is the casting is very strong.
Very strong.
And I think Michelle Yeoh, if you don't know, she's recently been in more Hollywood movies like Shang-Chi and Boss Level and all these types of movies. But she's a Hong Kong star since
From
the 90s, right?
80s, I think, even.
Well,
and then I think she took a break, and then she came back in the 90s.
Right? She did Super Cop.
Yeah.
She's
been a whole bunch of
she's
stuff,
been
yeah.
a lot of stuff that when
She was one of the early kind of like, female. She can do the action.
She can do the kung fu, the action,
yeah.
the stunts, and it's nice to see her get a lead role where she's doing what she's good at, but also acting really well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do an Oscar prediction, but if this movie moves into that category where they
I could
see
see her getting a nom. Yeah.
like, I would say she deserves a nomination.
No, at least, yeah.
22
early predictions.
Oscars, I would say if the movie is in the category that some movies are overlooked, right? But if it's in there, I think she should get one. I think Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing in this.
She was clearly having a blast.
She was having fun.
She was having so much fun.
And it's nice to see her in this type of role because she has done horror. But she's also a very good comedian.
Yes,
her timing's very good.
Yeah.
I think the daughter Stephanie Hsu did a great job.
I think she did a very good job.
Really good
I think
job.
she was the standout, actually, as a supporting actress.
Yeah.
I think she did. Yeah.
And even James Hong, who's kind of a legend in Hollywood for doing these kind of stereotypical roles, he did a great job.
He did Kwan, also good. Yeah, I think everyone was really, really good.
And I think there's very strong casting. So The story, the casting is very good in this movie. It's just most people will come out of it, especially if you are looking for, you're very into a certain genre.
Yeah.
This is really gonna kind of blow your mind. You're gonna say, what was that?
Yeah. And it doesn't really fit neatly into any box.
Yeah.
You know, of this genre is supposed to do this and this is supposed to do this. And you're right. The final message, the main plot that has to be resolved at the end, and kind of the main meaning, you know, it does require some processing and some thinking. I think I agree with you. When I first stepped out of my first showing, I was overwhelmed, and it did take me just reading a bit more about what they were saying and thinking about kind of how scenes were presented, and especially in the second viewing to really grasp what is this movie trying to say?
That's right. Yeah.
Because this is one of those movies that you can come out of and like it's just an overload of things, and you don't necessarily, it doesn't come to you. It's not obvious if you don't think about it.
It's trying to say quite a few things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's got the family aspect and what it means to be a family. It talks about life choices and being okay with life choices and accepting that, you know, how the world sees a certain choice might not be the best way. You know, where the world's seeing prestige and power, I'm okay with my little family.
Choosing,
right. It talks about choosing hope and joy, which is the daughter's name, Joy, in the face of adversity and probably mundaneness, and because the movie kind of ends that way. It doesn't end with like a huge bang of a
huge triumphal battle and victory.
It kind of ends with a very subtle.
It's a small moment.
Yeah. So yeah, I felt like I think this was a really strange but quite beautiful movie.
So again, we talked about the absurdist comedy, and I think that may be more up my alley, and that may be stuck. And so, getting into the things that you might not have liked so much about this movie, would that be one thing for you?
It's interesting because when I first saw some of the absurdity, and this is a spoiler with the raccoon with the hot dog hands, it's one of those things where I didn't think was necessary. Or the rocks. I don't think they should have been in the movie, but at the same time, I think that's what people are going to. If you're going to cosplay as something, you're going to do those things.
Yeah.
And I saw an interview with Michelle Yeoh, and she even brought the hot dog hands on the show.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And Jamie Lee Curtis, apparently, they gave the Daniels made her or gave her a figurine of her character from Halloween, like a little top with hot dog fingers.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things.
Iconic imagery,
but it is very far-fetched. And really, like, what is going on here? Because, again, it's one of those things where it's because it breaks the genres down that I'm not used to, right? If it's science fiction action or science fiction comedy, I'll say, okay, I expect certain things to happen. But this one was just like, I don't know, Rick and Morty. What is this?
I when I was explaining it to another friend, I was saying that actually there is a lot of Rick and Morty kind of feel to it. It kind of feels like it's something that Dan Harmon could have kind of written or helped input on, because there is that absurdity level that you see in Rick and Morty, in Community, and that kind of stuff. I feel this manages, you know, apropos to the title, this manages everything kind of at once in one movie really well. I personally like the absurd humor a lot more than you did, and so I like comedy. I appreciate kind of this absurd comedy, and it's not just kind of just a one-time gag for gag's sake. They commit to it for better or for worse, and they keep going back to it, and it pays off at the end. I like action. I like sci-fi. I like comedy.
This is the perfect movie for you.
It's honestly, I'm ready to jump to a grade, because this easily, I think, enters kind of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It really hits, it ticks all the boxes for me. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm going to give this an A+.
First A+.
First A+. I don't know when you will ever give your first A+, and I don't think it's now.
Well, it could be Top Gun. I'm going to give this movie an A-, because exactly what you said, you know, because of it doesn't hit all the boxes for me. The absurd kind of humor is not necessarily something I love, but for what it is and what they're going for, I really do respect it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the family elements of this movie the most.
Right.
And I think, you know, A- for that reason. I could maybe a second watching, it could bump up to an A.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I need a second watching. You had 2 watchings. Okay, I only had 1.
Yeah.
It could be an A.
Yeah. Well, that's our review of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Hopefully, if you've seen this, you have seen the movie. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about what we think. And until next time, keep watching things.
And subscribe.